Welcome back to K24 Alpha Jury. We're now counting down to the last 30 minutes of the show. And before the commercial break, we were talking about being happily single. You guys have a lot to say on our social media platforms. Jeff Mote is ready to sample some of your views. Jeff Mote, over to you.
Okay, and let's take it from that particular point, because is it possible to be happy and single? That's a question we strive to answer. Of course, keep those tweets coming in at K24TV. The hashtag is, of course, K24 Alpha Jiri. And people are feeling very strongly about this sentiment because a lot has been said about it. But let's get those tweets up and see what we have to say about that. Of course, our handle is at K24TV. Let's start from there. What's the first tweet we have? We have at Kelvin Rudolph coming in there saying, yes, it's possible as long as you eat well and sleep well. So clearly there are other things in life. There are basic needs. Let's meet those first. Let's move on to another tweet from Bonnie Moas. Yes, because most times being in a relationship is stressful, but when single, you're stress-free. I think that's something we need to talk about as we move on to the second part of this discussion, when relationships are just equalized to stress. Is it the same thing or not? I will tackle that as well. Imani Ima says, yes, have 1 year without dating and I'm the happiest lady in the city. Well, there you go, Imani being testament to the fact that, yes, it is indeed possible. Trudy Fee, 100% possible and also very happy. We have another person there giving that testimony that, yes, it is indeed possible. Lilian Musili, definitely, yes, happiness is not measured by relationships. There are people in marriages that are like hell, which is also a very valid point right there. Stephen Hamisi, yes, in fact, it was yes, absolutely. Thank you for that, Steve. We have another tweet coming in. Grace Muendo, singleness has been defined by majority of us as loneliness, and in fact, it isn't singles we are enjoying. Okay, so that's what we have right there. One more tweet before we wind it up. Ian_Mbogo, he in July. Nobody cares about people faking happiness. Labda, they have 2 duvets. So when it's cold, well, of course, that's why you say when 2 are better than 1, according to Ian_Mbogo. But we'll take it back to Ndanu, of course, to pick it up from there. Very many questions asked on that particular issue. People, equating, being a relationship,
yes,
stress up on Dani.
Yes.
And then just for some humor up in there, this cold season.
Absolutely.
You need 2 duvets if you're alone.
It is the cold season, so hey.
lots of things to talk about. So again, over to you.
Yes, but even as we talk about, let's just sample the polls right now. I think they were at 69. 69, the question was, if I could just have that on my screen, please. The question was, is it possible to be single and happy? And 64% of you say, yes, it is very possible to be single and happy. And 29 said, no, absolutely no. You cannot be single and happy. And then we have 7% who are just not sure. They're like, yeah, maybe you can be happy or not. But those are your views. Please just keep on talking to us on the social media platforms. We will be right there to answer any question that you have and sample your views. But before we actually took the commercial break, Jennifer, you were explaining to us and giving us the consequences, of having a child outside marriage.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. First, let me say that that's very encouraging, the statistics, that it's possible to be happily single, because it's an attitude of the heart. And I would say bravo and congratulations to you that are enjoying singlehood. It's only for a season. And what makes people not get out of singlehood is about avoidance, because of fear of intimacy, because of fear of pain. What now makes them choose to go for a donor and have children with a donor that they have no relationship with is avoidance. Avoidance of intimacy and avoidance of pain. You've got to call it and say, come here, let us reason together. So once you choose that, it means you are not fully recovered from an incident in your life. 2, that you are under the influence of something that needs to be managed. And finally, our communities are governed by some culture and tradition and beliefs and their embrace. Now, when you choose to go against what is culturally acceptable within a community, you separate yourself. And that brings a bit of a level of loneliness and seclusion. But for me, I know children are a gift from the Lord. And if you have any child in any method, they come to add value in the world, and it is marvelous. My only concern would also be that identity stage of that child, that identity versus confusion developmental stage. Who am I? Who are our people? Who's my father? Where do I come from? It's all about genealogy.
Absolutely. And it's funny,
genealogy.
You have mentioned that, Jennifer,
Yes.
because I was speaking to someone who told me, you know, she's a single parent.
Yeah.
And in school, they were asked,
Yeah.
who's the head of the house?
Yes.
And the kid just raised the hand and said, Mom.
Yes.
Because that's all that she knows.
Yes.
Because Mom is the only person who's with her. And I don't know whether you have had the same experience.
Yes.
Jackie.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you have your child, like, sometime they're kind of, just because of how you have chosen to live, you find themselves, even through the answers, they shock the people around them, and the teachers and the friends as well.
All the time, Mom, 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 you know, and you can just tell that he is comfortable with that. But I'm sure, as he's growing up, he has this mind that is very sharp, that's growing into understanding that, hey, I know there is Mom, and there should be someone else. But while we're here, it's Mom.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I want us now to talk about the role of the church in all this.
Yes.
Because even as you're getting married, you're always told, happily ever after. And the only thing that can separate the both of you is death. Mr. Peterson, you are a pastor. Do you feel like the church has also put pressure, you know, in people sticking together, even in as much as sometimes this relationship might not be working for both the husband and the wife?
I think that there has been a real misconception from a biblical standpoint about what a covenant is, period. And I've heard, for example, some extreme things, and especially in the context of an African society. For example, you have an abusive man who is literally, you know, not physically, verbally, emotionally destroying that woman because of his own insecurities and thinking that somehow control and power is the way to, you know, domination is the way to take my place in a relationship. And then they'll go, whether it is to the church or, as Jennifer has pointed out severally, to, let's say, the elders in a society or in a village or whatever. And basically the response is go back and either submit or endure, it's going to work out. That is ridiculous. In some cases, we know, because we see it on the news, you end up with people even dead from such situations. That is not counsel to fix anything. Insofar as the role of the church in the midst of it, the reason why I say there is a misunderstanding about covenantalism in Scripture, we need to understand that every covenant comes with conditions. Every covenant comes with conditions. And the biblical covenant model is shown in the first 5 books of the Bible. Briefly, Genesis shows that if we're going to be in a relationship with God in a covenant, we have to know that God is supreme. He is preeminent. So it's going to be according to his standards. Exodus again shows who will rule in the relationship between Moses and Pharaoh, God and man. Leviticus tells us these are the conditions that should be kept if you're going to have a covenant with God. Be holy as I'm holy. But then that brings us to Numbers, which in the ancient world covenant making said, if you do not keep these conditions, these are the consequences. Again, I'm back to Jennifer. You're an amazing teacher, by the way. I'm just enjoying hearing you speak. In Numbers, you saw all of the judgments that came against Israel because of broken covenants. Okay? And then lastly, a covenant, Deuteronomy shows, is not only with you, but if I'm making a covenant today with God, I'm actually making it for my seed in their generations to come. It actually has generational consequences, how I keep that covenant, how I deal with it. The unfortunate thing is that many pastors, please don't send me no hate mail. Are you still putting my Facebook page up there or whatever? Don't send me no hate mail, but the reality is that we have excluded the fact that there are consequences to breaking covenant. And no woman, and by the way, I'm here as the resident male today. Let me speak for men, because there are situations in which women are beating up on men, and some men are gentlemanly enough not to hit back. then you can't come to the society or the police and say, my wife beat me up. Some police will laugh you to scorn.
Yes.
So we
Man
have all
up.
of
They'll
these.
actually tell you to man up.
Man up.
Okay.
You have
And
all of
man
these
up, the
dynamics going on. So the reality is
Yes.
we cannot come with this broad brush and say,
Okay.
just stay and
All right.
all the rest of it. We need to take situations on their individual
We
basis.
have a caller online right now, Norris from Nairobi. Good morning. Hello, good morning. Hello, Norris.
Hello.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Yes. Do you have a comment or a question?
Yeah, I'm good. You?
Yes.
I'm good.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, please go ahead.
Concerning being single and happily,
Okay.
being happily single.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I've heard them say like you just look for a child, and then you assume everything is okay, and at the end of the day you live your own life as a single mother or something. Now this is the question: how comes when men try to look for kids and then they try to live a single life, inafika mahali wanataka kusema sasa wanaume wamekosa, wanaume sijui ni maumbwa. What if we also decide to look for kids from them, and then we decide to live single? Will that be okay for them also?
Yeah, that's a very...
Will that sound also good? Thank you very much, K24.
That's a very good question. Thank you very much, Norris. Interesting question, and I think, Jennifer, you should take this one. Yes.
What did he
The question was, how comes when men just want to have babies and no commitment,
Yes.
we call them names?
Well,
And-
it's kind of awkward, so to speak, because even the word speaks about a man ought to marry. It is not good for a man to be alone. I will find him a suitable companion, bone of his bone and flesh of his flesh. Now, the thing is, it's not the norm for a man to choose singlehood and have a child. A man is not a nurturer. A man is to get out there and find providence. Is not to stay home and take care. A man is not one that is supposed to stay home and change the diapers and feed the baby. A man don't have the breasts to breastfeed the child. So there's a role. This is about roles and responsibilities, and we need to talk about them. But allow me to say this. We have a lot of single women with parents because of irresponsible young men. I mean, they just go donating their eggs left, right, and center and take no responsibility. I was amazed when I met this man who had 14 children out of wedlock.
Wow.
14.
14 children.
That means there are 14 women out there who are nursing and feeding his children, and he is happily single. And so if you're choosing to be happily single, don't donate. Nobody needs your donation. I mean, I feel very sad when I meet a single girl who is a parent and the man did not take responsibility. And I will say this, as a society, we don't take charge. We don't take charge to make them take responsibility. The church does not hold them responsibility. The family does not hold them responsibility. Nobody holds them responsible. And so they are there just to do what they want, how they want to do it, and get away with it. And finally, the law
Before you finish,
doesn't...
let's just pick this one call from Martin.
Okay.
Good morning, Martin. How are you? Hello, Martin?
Yes, I'm
Good
fine.
morning. How are you?
Morning.
Yes. Do you have a comment or a question?
Yeah, I have a comment and also a question at the
Yes,
same time.
please go ahead.
I have a question about single and happily in marriage.
Okay.
But then my surprise is that does the Bible support the issue of being single? And at the same time, being single, and then you say that you are finding a child from somebody else. Because to me, it sounds more of adulterous than being single.
Okay.
Because I want to remember something when Jesus was asked by the Pharisees that what do you say when it comes to divorce? But he said, he asked them, how do you understand divorce? They said, Moses told us that you can write a letter of divorce if there is any hiccups between you and your wife. And then he told them, it is only that Moses told you that because your understanding was so tough and your hearing was also complicated. And I tell you, take it from me, that there is nobody on earth that is allowed to separate the two people who have been joined by God.
Okay, all right.
So
okay, Martin, thank you very much, Martin, for your contribution. Thank you so much. And I don't know whether, Mr. Peterson, you'd like to respond to his question.
Let me jump in here. Again, this is one from which I'm sure I'll get a lot of controversy, but there has been a generational misconception about what Moses did say. When Moses said that, Moses was in a society in which, again, as has been shared, men were not being held accountable. And actually, here's a misconception. Moses was not so much trying to protect the man, he was actually trying to protect the female, because in the context of that society, a man could divorce a woman and go on to the next conquest, as it were, and then that woman could not be married to another man or taken in by another man. And then what would happen is she would have no support, because in their day, the woman was a little bit above property.
Okay.
Listen carefully, this is important. So when Moses said, give her a bill of divorcement, it actually was to say, this woman is now allowed to be married to another man so that there will be provision for her. So that's been a general misconception for generations.
Okay.
We don't take the covenant of marriage lightly.
But
to think that God, if a person is divorced, all of a sudden they're on God's hate list, that's not true.
That doesn't happen. Okay, fine. And real quick, as we wind up, maybe Jen and Jackie, you can tell me the one thing that you have learned and the one thing that makes you so happy about being single and choosing to be single.
Do I start?
Yes.
One thing that makes me happy is the opportunity to learn. There is an opportunity to learn and to prepare. I'm hearing a lot of the 29, I think, percent who are like, no. I think they're coming from a place of the conception of being single. It's like the fight towards the male figure, that there are beasts, like people would say. I totally don't agree with that.
Okay.
I just say it all needs reasoning together.
All right.
A relationship, with what I've learned now, is that you need to reason together as two.
Okay. Jane?
What I've enjoyed a lot about being single is, one, learning to discover yourself. You have a lot of time to do that. You have a lot of opportunities, and nothing hinders you. And you can also grow yourself. You can also, apart from just discovering your values, build yourself. And you have that freedom. And you know, as per se, when you have children, you have the time to do that, especially in their beginning stages.
Okay.
So take the time right now and enjoy.
All right. Mr. Peterson, real quick, as we wind up, what's your final thoughts on this particular subject?
My final thoughts is that human beings are awesome creatures, and that we must make sure that we know the difference between aloneness and loneliness. It is important to be alone sometimes. But in the context of marriage, you can thrive. You can enjoy your life in as much as you can enjoy life and fulfill godly purpose being single.
Single, absolutely. And finally, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Yes.
I would say life is beautiful. It's important to recognize where you really are. Are you single by default or single by choice? And so once you recognize, if you're single by default, work towards healing for whatever default came in your life. There are those that are even single because they are widowed. They lost their partners. If you're single by choice, be true to yourself and have a plan. And basically, many singles run away from the reality through avoidance.
Yes.
And so I would say, stop being avoiding and choose to talk about it. Find a mentor and don't just sit there, do something.
Okay.
And networking is important, and growing in that season is important. But most of all is to recognize that it's a season, not a permanent condition.
Absolutely.
If I could just say one
briefly, please, because of time. Yes.
Okay, cool. If is there loneliness in being single? Yes, it comes. It's human. In the meantime, be as creative as possible.
Okay. All right. And I guess we can all agree that you can be happy. And
Yes.
Thank you very much for coming through and for being so vocal about your views on this particular subject. I really do appreciate it. And thanks to you back at home for all the feedback that we are getting, all the comments, all the phone calls that you've actually called in studio to give us your views. And as we also just have a look at your final thoughts on this particular one, we had a poll and the question was, is it possible to be single and happy? So as of now, 66% of you say yes, it is very possible to be single and happy. 26 say no, absolutely not. And then we have 8% who are just like, we're not sure whether you can be single and happy. I don't know. I think you can be single and happy because I have been in that position, and trust me, it was a time in life where I just discovered myself.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I've been
I
in
don't
the
know
same
about you guys.
position as well. I just came out of a really bad relationship and I decided, okay, I have lost who I was. I need to find myself before I can be present for anyone else.
Yes.
And so, and she said that, is it possible to be lonely while single? I also believe it's really possible to be lonely in a relationship.
In a relationship, yes.
You can be completely lonely being the wrong person. I'd rather be single than be lonely with someone.
Yes.
Also, did you just say you had been single? Boy children.
Hearts are breaking all
sorry.
over.
Sorry.
Jeff, is that all that you picked from my...
I mean, I have to stand up for my boy childs, man. The boy childs.
Boy
sorry.
babies.
Sorry.
Sorry.
A boy baby. Now you know.
Sorry.